So we have done, we have completed fourfold practices. There are 9 practices, which I normally say these 9 practices means 6 treasures and 3 other practices. I say they are primary practices, directly or indirectly, taught by all the masters. Now ask yourself, we know we have the knowledge now. Knowing is one thing, and living in it is another. We know a lot of things, but we don't live with that knowledge. So there is a gap between the two that needs to be understood. So what happens? I understand it, and then while living day to day life, we forget it. Mind takes us to the same old habit, old stuff, impurity. Yeah? Mind continues to live in the same delusion, misunderstanding. And that is why 1 hour of meditation, 23 hours of stress. So the answer comes from the masters that knowledge is there in the intellect, but that knowledge is not steady in the intellect. So when the knowledge is not steady in the intellect, the mind takes over. So simple to understand. We have a steady knowledge. Where is our home? Who is our honey? What is our gender? What is our age? Etc. etc. Long list. So we don't have any delusion about it. It is not that, that we land up in another house and claim that this is my house. It's so easy to understand. So I'm making it simple. So we don't land up to another person and we say, "Hi, honey, I've been living with you for the last 10 years." We don't say that. It's very clear to us. So what I want to make it that knowledge, if it is steady in the intellect, then the mind and its behavior changes. And the second reason we can say that the mind is still impure. Huh? Mind is still carried out by my behavior, my attitude, because of the past impressions. Huh? So we should go logically now. What I'm going to present today will help us to go deeper. So first thing, you make it clear that knowledge is not steady in the intellect. Because of mind, because of ignorance, because of delusion, one thing. And second thing, we can say that knowledge is not steady in the intellect. That is why you have done the practice, and then after doing the practice, again, the mind goes back to the same stress. What should we do to make the knowledge steady in the intellect? That should be our next question. And continue to purify the mind. Huh? So, what answer that comes to you? Practice it regularly, know it. So, what comes, that is why I have been repeating it again, that listening and learning is first step. I do not know, let me know it. And then comes the second step, we normally ignore it. Why? I already received the knowledge, so I understand it. No. If I do not think and contemplate and reflect on the knowledge during the day, the knowledge is not going to be steady. So it is when the knowledge is steady, then it inspires you to do the practice. You will never leave the practice. So I have covered that part in a different way. You never Say that I missed going to the restroom today. Why you miss the practice? Why? Ask you, no, that we want to change. We want to transform. Our goal is little bigger. So simple steps. You never leave being in stress during the day, but you don't practice. You have enough time to get stressed. Ask yourself. You have to hammer your mind that what is this happening? I have learned it. I know the way. So from today, our session will be participative. What it means, if your intellect reveals something to share, instantly share. Interrupt me. Let us participate so that you start thinking in solving the riddles of life. Whatever the challenges that you have, we have an answer in the Eastern wisdom. So listening, that I told you, listening is one, but we have to hammer the intellect, we have to contemplate and reflect. If you don't do that, then intellect will remain behind the mind. Mind will continue to work on us, and if the mind continues to work on us, it will cause impurity, delusion, duality, conflict. It will continue. No, I know meditation is very good. We become philosophers, meditation, mindfulness is very good. But when it comes to our day-to-day living, everything is washed out. It is only because of two reasons. Knowledge is not steady in the intellect, and the mind takes over the intellect due to the past impressions. Are you getting it? So we should be participative in this. We don't need an IQ. We just need an awareness. I told you before also that where I told you that the moment I have a stress, anxiety, duality, conflict, any challenges that is known by the mind, let me ask, I don't know. First tell that I don't know. That is why it is happening. Then go to the understanding. Contemplate and reflect on it in your mind. And when you contemplate and reflect, and the knowledge is steady in the intellect, the mind will leave all the stress and the suffering. That is what is known as the state of mindfulness. That is known as living in the present moment. Otherwise, we are normal. I'm in stress, I'm living in a present moment. So continue to live in the present moment. That will not work. That will not work at all. I remember something. There is a Mandukya Upanishad. It contains only 12 verses written by, I would say, anonymous author. And the name of that Upanishad is Mandukya. Mandukya means frog. Frog hops. You take 12 steps and you are there. But one of the greatest masters has written 5,000 page commentary on that verse. To understand, to allow the knowledge to be settled in the intellect is another. After that, you are going to do the practice. That is very clear. So to remind you, a couple of things. First thing, who am I? There is an identity crisis. The mind says, I am stressed. Eastern wisdom says, real self is free from stress. I have to bridge this gap. Once I find that, there is no way to get out of the stress and the suffering and ignorance, then live into that. So that should always be kept in our intellect. That is our subject matter, to realize the real self. Second is, what is the goal of life? Think of it. What I do not want in my life. I don't want stress, anxiety, duality, conflict, delusion, ignorance. And what I want in life, you should give a priority and of suffering. What we normally do, we just do the opposite. We are in stress. I have been in stress for the last 10 years. Really? No, that should not be our thinking. Third is from where we get the knowledge to bring an end to the suffering. That is what we are learning. And who will treat the path? The seeker who has the fourfold qualification. Discernment, 3D. Take it 3D. Discernment, dispassion, and desire for freedom, plus six treasures, sama, dhamma, uparati, titiksha, shraddha, samadhan. We have already covered that. Now comes the very important thing. When we follow these fourfold practices, what is going to happen in our day-to-day life? That should happen to us if we are a seeker. The knowledge is settled in the intellect. You wake up in the morning, the mind says it's a bad morning, it turns out to be a good morning. What I have to do with the bad and good morning? Are you getting it? What it has to do with? Sunrise is the same way. Sun rises in the east today also, yesterday also, tomorrow it will happen the same way. So what is about the bad morning? You hammer the mind through your intellect so that it prevents the mind to go in the old, habitual, instinctive, impulsive way. Is it clear? Why we follow the fourfold practices? Because now our action, our karma, that is known as karma, action is karma. So now our every karma becomes karma yoga. Every action, eating, going to the restroom, preparing, taking bath, everything becomes karma yoga. What happens? It will help you to raise your awareness before you act. Normally, our 99.9% of the actions comes from the mind, comes from the ignorance. And that ignorance continues to say that I'm seeking, projecting happiness outside. So now every action is becoming karma yoga. What is the best way to do the karma yoga? Karma, how the best you can turn every karma into karma yoga. Become aware of what action you are going to do and focus on the action. Don't focus on the ego. Don't focus on the recognition. Don't focus on the results of an action. This is what the fourfold practices can bring in our life. First. Second is very important. It purifies your speech. There is a sense of softness, gentleness, continues throughout your life, throughout your day. May talking, communicating with the people. That second result means you are not easily influenced by what is happening around you, with the people, with the relationship. Why? Six treasures. The mind remains withdrawn inside, not getting carried away easily. And at that time, you practice meditation, it will succeed. Are you getting it? Second great result. At least when you are ready for meditation, the mind is free. Mind is not complaining, I have a lot of thoughts today. Because you are a seeker now. You have done the practices. It minimizes the hyperactivity of the mind that is engaged in millions of the things. Uparati. You have, by the fourfold practices, you get an inward moving mind. There's an outward moving mind, there is an inward moving mind. So if you are a seeker, you have done all the four practices, you have contemplated and reflected on it, then you will understand. Now you wake up every day in the morning or when you go to the sleep, it is almost the same level. Same level. Except if you are not doing any manual activity, you find the mind lives into the same state. Think of it. It is going to reduce hours of sleep. It is going to give you a very deep sleep. Anxiety will be far. Reaction, no. A reaction may come. I also react sometimes, no doubt, because of the past impressions. And that's an ongoing process. Second result that you will get, calmer mind. Mind becomes subtle, ready to learn the subtle aspects of the Eastern wisdom. That is why we have to become a seeker to learn those subtle aspects of real self. Third, now once these two things happens in weeks ahead, intellect has a clarity about the knowledge of the real self. That clarity will keep the intellect in the knowledge of the real self all the time. Did you get it? I'm repeating. Clarity will keep this intellect in the knowledge of the real self. I'm repeating it again. Intellect will keep this knowledge, means the knowledge is now settled in the intellect. Mind cannot bypass it. What it means? What is knowledge? Knowledge is consciousness. Consciousness is awareness. It is your experience. What is that state? It is a state of meditation. When? All the time. Where? Everywhere. Which condition? In all the conditions. Are you getting it? You see the clarity, the teachings of great masters. It is not my meditation and your meditation, 1 minute meditation, 5 minutes meditation. So we are a seeker. So great master from the Upanishads. I told you the Upanishads are the complete text. They are revealed text. What do you mean by revealed text? Those masters spent years and years without any interest. They spent time into the forest to know it. In meditation, that knowledge was revealed, and that revelation was scribed in the form of the verses. So that is what we study. Always we focus our understanding based on the teachings of these masters. Atma vari drashtavya. My honey means, the master is telling the wife. When the wife asked that what is the ultimate way, what is the ultimate method, you give me a brief. Maitreyi was the name of the wife. He says, Atma va are drashtavya, shrotavyo, mantavyo, nidhidhyasitavyo Maitreyi. Where he says, you have to first step, same thing. I do not know, let me know it. I do not understand, let me understand it so that the knowledge is settled in the intellect. Nididhyasitavyo, then regular practice, my dear honey. That is the only way to reach to the ultimate goal of meditation. permanent peace and happiness. So I gave you an example. I am stressed. Do I live my life as a seeker? I become aware. Oh, yes, I'm in stress, no doubt, but this is because of the ignorance. So let me start understanding. And you will discover that you had a disliking inside of something, some event that popped up in your mind is causing the stress, which has already gone. So the mind will not spend too much of time. Instantly, you remember, you change the mind. So now remember again so that it will hit your mind. He says the second step, which is known as manan, I do not understand, let me understand. This step is 100 times superior to listening from a teacher. First step is listening and learning from a teacher. Second step is I do not understand, so let me understand. So he says you sit alone even for 5 minutes, couple of times, where I am, what I'm searching for. Raise you the bar of your awareness during the day. So what he says, reflection, contemplation is 100 times superior to listening. And practice after that, practice is 1,000 times superior to contemplation and reflection. That results into emptiness, mindfulness, awakening, realization. So whenever any thought comes, pops up in your mind, you start sharing your experiences during the week, whatever you do it. I'm ready, happy to respond. I'm happy to respond. So it should be a participative. Anything that pops up in your mind, oh, this is the way I have understood. Share it. Every human being, as a human being, we are seekers. I've been talking. What we want is permanent happiness, love, and wisdom. What we do not want, anxiety, duality, conflict, delusion. How simple it is. This mind is seeking complete security, fearlessness, freedom from the sorrow and the suffering, and follows the wrong approach. If I start crying before you guys, will it help me in any way? So when I become aware, I go deeper, I find the root cause of the suffering, and then I solve the riddles of my life. That is what is real meditation. That is why I always say, I have to ask, do I love peace? Yes, peace is my nature. Do I love stress? No. But why stress has entered into my life? Let me find the cause. Any kind of stress, suffering, duality, conflict. You see, that day to day life, from moment to moment, you are living a life of self awareness, and ultimately, you will find out the cause in your mind. And it will keep your mind free from day to day anxiety. That is what is known as that you allow the you live your life in the world, but you do not allow the world to live in you. Not easily influenced by the ups and downs in the world, in your relationship. No. Your wisdom remains intact, and the knowledge and the wisdom can solve any problem in our life. That is the even the goal of the science. Goal of the science. So again, I'm stressing on what is the point of the stress is that participate, think of this. Instantly, rather than getting carried away by your emotions, by fear, by reaction, wherever, in which situation you are, we ask the intellect to play its role in day to day life based on the knowledge of the Eastern wisdom. Yes, Christina.
So, how for us to process and contemplate on things that happened to us in the past, from your experience, how long does it take to then not have it affect you anymore? I, because I'm a little lost there.
If mind is the master, it will take the entire life. Simple answer. So, what the mind is saying, the past. Past is memory, it is dead. Now apply contemplation. Past is dead. Can it be repeated? Can any event of the past is repeated in the same way? Answer is no. Intellect is asking then why you are retrieving the past again and again. Go on contemplating. Why I am retrieving the past again and again? Because I don't have peace. Can peace come by repeating the past? Go on contemplating. There are 100 ways of doing the contemplation. Our intellect makes it clear what happened in the past is past, it is dead. My mind, whenever you will retrieve the past, I will stop you. I will stop you. So, this is the you think in your mind. What you think, oh, 10 years ago, my past. My past? There is no my past or your past. It has come and it has gone. Are you clear? There is no my past in your past. This is one way to reflect and contemplate. But you give a fuel to the past. Oh, I was so much scared. And then you act as if you are scared now. So then you have tears in your eyes. You're helping the mind to create further impression. One way. There are hundreds of ways. My young girl, do you have an intellect? Can you think? Can you contemplate and reflect? Yes, because I'm a human being. So let me become a human being and think of it. And the moment you think, now the mind is weakened because of its past impression. So you have to weaken the mind. I begin in the very beginning. I start in the very beginning. Two causes. Mind goes back into ignorance, and the knowledge is not settled. It is not steady in the intellect. And I gave a very rough example that you knock the door. Oh, this is my house, neighbor's house. No, that is not your house. You are 100% sure. You're 100% sure about your gender, about your race, your home. Are you not sure? So the intellect makes you sure that I'm the real self. Suffering cannot touch me. It comes from the mind. The mind may go to the past, mind may compare in the present, mind may project into the future. Mind, don't be crazy. Don't make me crazy. I'm not thinking in that way. Another way of contemplation. Many ways. So you start thinking in that way. That contemplation and thinking is 100%, 1,000 times better than simply listening and learning and then forgetting. So let us start our practice today.